just great to see that a lot of people have interest in Alva and in our future, so it's just great to see a great crowd here today. This is actually a Rotary meeting, so we've got a few little points of business to cover before we get into the program. First of all, I want to thank everybody who did the fundraising for the Hogs. Special shout out to Charles Murrow for all the extra work he did. We raised about $4,000, which will cover scholarships and our youth, summer youth camps, and I appreciate everybody who did that. And I do believe our own Vern Metcalf has an announcement.
I'd like to take up any time for the BS that's coming up. But our football coach from Northwestern is here today. We're going to try to stick him into this club, and we're having the golf tournament. Get him, tell him. This is Coach Ronnie Jones.
June 3rd, we're having our Northwestern golf tournament, and we're going around trying to get teams to sign up to play and people to sponsor our tee boxes. So we will be out. I hired Vern. He's my assistant, and so we've been coming around. A lot of you we've already seen, but we're looking for sponsorships, and we'd love your support. Thank you.
Housekeeping note, if you are here just as a guest to just witness what's going on and ask questions, please pay for your meal when you leave. If you're a Kiwanian, the Kiwanis will pay for yours. If you're a Rotarian, we will pay for yours. But for those of you that don't fall into one of those two buckets, just go ahead and just stop by the front desk and pay on your way. Jason.
Yes.
You want to talk about some stuff you've got going on?
We should have Students of the Month for both February and March here next week. And then we've got our scholarship applications. I just got to stop by and pick them up. So we will need to have a meeting about that. And then we're awaiting RILA applications as well for this summer. So.
Sounds good. Sergeant of Arms, Mickey Hadwiger.
Thank you very little. I would like to say it's good to see Alan Wilson here today, but my parents told me never to lie, so we'll leave that alone. I do see that people got the memo that if you showed up today, Vern Metcalf was buying margaritas, because otherwise I can't believe everybody would be here for a candidate forum, because I guarantee you there's twice as many people in the room here today than will show up to vote. I did have Sergeant Arms, and unfortunately today the jokes were thinking people jokes, so there's half the clubs that probably won't get them, so we'll save them for Rotary next week, okay? And one final question, and this could be answered by Kalani and David or somebody. With the new medical marijuana laws, does that make the happy pot at Kiwanis any different? I better sit down.
And that's on camera.
Oh, well, I'm not running for office again.
Our program today, we're going to start out with both candidates coming up. Taylor, you feel free to start out, and then Kelly can start back up after you. What we're going to do is have you just talk about yourself, about what you guys, anything you want to tell about your family, what your platform is, what you do for a living, anything that is pertinent to you that you want people to know. And then after that, we're going to open up to questions. And one thing I sent out an email today, and I hope everyone does this, let's try to be equitable to the both candidates as far as the number of questions, so that everybody gets a chance to speak and answer questions. So at this time, we would like for both of you guys to come on up and get started.
Hello. I'm glad that I have the honor to speak with you guys today. I want to talk about Firm Foundation. one created with collaboration of the citizenry. We, as a governing body, must seek greater involvement in the community. We must work towards creating a system to better exchange information, to work with local civic groups, to lend them the expertise, to obtain grants in partnership with our city, or make easily raise funds among the community, to involvement, along with incentives that help spread awareness and contribute to positive impacts. It is with this network of neighbors, community leaders, and local businesses at the individual ward level, we will start a series of public hearings that allow for collaboration and construction of solutions that can bring to light and begin to address the most prevalent issues that our wards face, such as repairs for streets, sanitation equipment, water and sewer systems, along with unproductive lots, to name only a few of the concerns these meetings will start to identify. It is my hope that the city will be the major push with the citizens' advice on how to get these concerns addressed. I will rely on local businesses to give input into what development create a healthier economy, whether that be through recruitment of businesses that provide services with a mutual beneficial field, or create more modern zoning and infrastructure of businesses so they can more easily recruit the employees that they need to grow and compete in a more competitive marketplace. It is important that our city have a healthy ecosystem that cultivates the growth of all types of civic groups that have a desire to improve upon the already wonderful city that we have. My desire is to create a system that allows those with the greatest buy-in to determine that what their local ward will see and is most valuable to them, so that the governing body can use that plan that the citizens in collaboration develop. One that members of the governing body will get done, because Alva deserves the future its citizens want. Where in this bright future, you might ask, are departments like the public safety, like police, fire, and EMS, or recreation, like the Cedar Parks and other recreation facilities that we have? In my opinion, we currently use great avenues to develop and build public relations, whether that be with the barbecue contest, volunteer health checks that happen at the Senior Citizen Center, or through the Fill the Boot or the Hat that happens at Walmart. My goal for these departments is to seek and develop cost-saving measures to better deal with maintenance, like having a mechanic on staff to assess vehicle maintenance and develop a citywide replacement and maintenance schedule. Need can triumph over greed. Developing efficiencies that can produce cost-saving initiatives by stopping the cycle of deferred maintenance that has been building for years for all departments, along with a strategy to improve infrastructure that has neighborhood-level buy-in throughout the city. This will not be enough to secure that bright future. For we must also button up the incredibly important projects currently underway, such as the swimming pool, plans for the Hatfield and Bud Rose Park, development of the arena, improvements of the homestead, like the community garden and the pond, just to name another few. Not to say anything about the support needed to continue developing strong relationships with all entities that receive an allotment of sales tax, so that we can better understand the roles to improve upon a cooperative relationship that better protects them from the volatility of sales tax and grants greater partnership within the city. It will be with the cultivation of civic awareness and civic responsibility that we can forge a plan to address the most prevalent areas of concern. I have dozens of ideas for the development of these plans and ways to make them affordable. It is important for me to say that I am not interested in my own strategies and will accept to go through the same processes as any citizen I'm elected. One that has been vetted and developed among the people with ideas that have been grafted together to create a more functional Alva to build that foundation. It is after providing realistic options and a comprehensive plan that can be publicly published that will allow citizens to dictate the direction the city will go, so that we as a city can build upon a firm foundation that the people support. It is through this plan that the fruits of our labors may be judged, whether these projects are done or that I, as the mayor, are done in by them. The buck will stop with me. To end, now, if I may borrow a few words from somebody else who was a much better wordsmith than I say to you this. I am just a politician with pleasant words and pleasant reasons to rejoice, and I do so in the wholesome practicality of our profit system. But surely, my right to having more than enough is canceled if I do not use that more to help those who have less. I owe the very profit I make to the people that I make it from. If this is radicalism, it comes automatically to most of us in politics. It is being generally agreed that any public man owes his position to the public. That's what I mean when I say I want to be the mayor of Alva. Thank you. Hello, everyone. It's good to see so many folks here this afternoon. 2015 had the humble honor of standing in front of the same group and talking about what it meant for me to be mayor of Alva if I were to be given the opportunity. And at that time, I remember clearly feeling like that, there's people that are in this room right now that support me, that will not support me after I complete a term, and there's people in this room right now that don't support me who will, at the completion of that term. And I feel like that has certainly panned out, and I have that thought, I maintain that thought, because it's important when you are serving a community such as Alva, probably any community, but a community like Alva, where we all know each other. We see each other all the time, and we know, though, that we're all not always going to be on the same page all the time. We have to be able to still make decisions knowing that some decisions that we make are going to be popular with some groups and some are going to be popular with other groups. And at the end of the day, when you guys elect the people that are going to serve as mayor and city council members, you've got to have faith that you're voting on people who are measured in the way they make their decisions, that they're honest and truthful and have a faith in something greater than themselves. And we have to have just a general appreciation for the people that you vote for. Have to have a general appreciation for the magnitude of this position, because it's not a position, whether it's as council members or as the mayor, it's not a position of great reward. I mean, really, there's very little reward in doing this job. There's a little bit of money involved, but it's very little. Certainly not worth the time and investment that your elected leaders put into serving this community. I want nothing more than to have the very best Alva, Oklahoma that is possible. I want water lines that are in good repair. I want streets that are easy to drive on. I want parks and recreation opportunities for our kids and our families. I want to make sure that we continue to have health care and high-quality education available in our community. And most of all, I want Alva to be a place where people love to live or love to visit. And maybe if they love to visit, then they'll decide they want to live here. I've had more than a conversation or two with people in the last few weeks that said that we only intended to be here a couple of years. 30 years later, they're still here and they love this town, and it is a great town. I think we have a lot of opportunities. I think people lose track of the great things that we have going on in our community because we do still have issues that we need to address. But we're in a great position moving forward, and it's not because we haven't had any challenges. It's probably because we have had those challenges and we've been able to learn from them in order to not repeat the mistakes that we have made in the past. And I think standing in front of you, I'm not going to say that I've been a perfect leader. I've made mistakes. Everybody that serves in this position is not going to be able to. Nobody that serves in this position is going to be able to stand up here and make any other kind of comment truthfully. When you get into this position, you do make mistakes because in the way it works in our town and so many towns like us, we didn't train our whole lives to be public officials. I mean, we have careers, we have jobs, we have professions that we have entered into, and then what we do as an elected official for our community is because we have a passion for what goes on in our towns. That's all I'm doing. I care about our town. I care about what makes it a great place to live, and I care about making sure that we continue to do things that make Alva a great place to live. I'm not going to make you any promises other than you're going to get my best. I'm a hard worker, and I don't know any other way to do it. You'll get everything I've got to put into this position. That's the only thing I'm going to promise you, because I know that there are difficult decisions to be made in the days and years ahead, and that we're going to have to be able to live with some compromise in order to get where we really need to go. So that concludes my opening remarks.
Adam Jordan, our program coordinator, is going to call on people as far as questions go. We asked the candidates to limit their responses to about 30 seconds because there's a lot of people in here, and we want to be sure that as many people can ask questions as possible.
All right. So I'm going to start the questions, and I have one that's for both of you. And I'll start with Kelly because I don't think you were on the council when they voted the rate hike in our water stuff. And if you've been on mayor or on city council before this, don't take this offensive because my parents were there too. But I believe a lot of our current infrastructure problems were because we were selling water and sewer cheaper than we could do that. And I know we kind of have a plan in place to make sure that we don't get into the hole on that stuff. But can you explain to us what your vision for that would be? I don't like taxes, but this isn't a tax rate. It is.
So 30 seconds? All right. I'll do my best. So in 2017, we implemented a progressive rate structure for our utility system, and with that, it is rooted in conservation. So there's incentive to conserve water, but it's also rooted in ensuring that as the cost to provide the service continue to increase, our water rates don't get behind. So it is graduated that annually we will budget and for a percentage increase that is equal to the the consumer price index increase from the previous year. And that's the way it is set up. It can be voted out annually. So the city council, if they decide that it's not necessary to implement a rate increase, it can be voted out. But if the council does not take action, then the rate increase becomes part of the rates for the next fiscal year.
I don't know if that was a fair question to you because you answered everything. But how do you feel about it?
I think we have to stop the continuous rate increases. I hope that by this time we have engaged in those increases because they were low, to sustain our system. I think a lot of the continuation has to do with bad debt, the purchase of the meters that we weren't able to pay off and that we will have to repurchase it. My goal will be to stop the leak so that we don't have to increase the utility rates going further, because it does hurt people on a fixed income and many people who want to find this place out.
All right, Mr. Jack.
I'm sorry about my hearing. I didn't understand either one of your questions.
I was just asking about the utility rate increases. Let's try and speak that. Chris.
This will be for both of you. If maybe just briefly, if you would kind of explain what you think from your background or your work history, and what experiences that you have that you think allows you to be the best mayor candidate.
I've been a network administrator for you people who aren't necessarily computer science savvy. I've worked with teams of departments, both remotely and locally, to facilitate systems for things for hospitals and everything from drug development for companies that had $500 million of assets. I do consulting work, and I have worked with both county and state agencies to develop databases and stuff like that. I'm a member of some local cemetery boards where I'm treasurer of. I'm a board member of the Kiwanis. I like to help and volunteer at local community events like the campus cabinet and the food bank. It's one of those things where I think the greatest involvement that you can have is understanding the citizens where you live. And so over the last 2 years, and specifically as part of the council, I have made an effort to attend every single event that the city of Alva has ever had to have, whether that's the hamburger feed that the Freemasons put on, or the 4th of July celebrations that the Little Red Head's done. It's one of those things where I think what makes Alva great, I guess I'm going over that movie, is the civic events that sponsor that, because it's really community driven. You know what I mean? No single entity contributes as much as the individual civic groups and individual passion of the people who live there. I've had a pretty heavy professional career in management. I've been responsible for multi-million-dollar budgets. I've been responsible for grants and donations well over $5 to $10 million. I might have written that down on my paper there, but I'm quite experienced in large budgets. I'm very experienced in working in an open meeting, open record environment. When I was in Arkansas, I worked for a public hospital, and moved to Alva, I worked for a public entity at the hospital, and so working in as an employee in a government entity, I understand the rules with all of the open records, all of the open meeting stuff. I understand that kind of stuff. I have, I've buried myself in this town. I mean, not literally, but I will be cremated. But sorry, Art, it won't be a green burial for me. Between my involvement with the university on the Rowdy Rangers, Rotary Club, my church, and our youth group with the church, and spent all last day and a half out at the VOTEC working with the school district on their strategic planning, and I have been heavily involved with the Lieutenant Governor's turkey hunt for the last few years, and I think many of the key component units of our city, I've been actively involved in one way or another, and I think and in the last 10 months, 11 months, whatever it's been since Angelica left us. Sorry to call you out. But I've got a very intimate understanding of some of the things that we as elected officials have not had a good understanding of when we've been trying to work with business managers and department heads to make sure that projects get completed. Tim Margo was talking about his year that he spent as principal at the high school being probably the best professional education opportunity that he's had. And I will say that serving in the capacity of business manager for the city of Alva, I've learned a boatload. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Thank you. John?
Alva is unique in that we have a portion of our tax dollars that are earmarked for both Northwestern and for Share Medical Center. I'd like to know specifically, yes or no, do you continue to support these type of taxes, and what is your stance on this if you were, the decision were solely yours?
Yes. That's it. Alva's not Alva without the hospital. Alva's not Alva without Northwestern. For whatever, I don't know, the hospital's about $1.5 million. I guarantee you that having that hospital in our town generates more for our local sales tax than it takes back from that cent and a quarter. Same thing with the college.
You can't have love without marriage, and you can't have the city of Alva without a hospital and without Northwestern. It's one of those things that I've been going door to door. I can't tell you the number of people that knocked on doors that either said, well, I'm employed with Northwestern, they brought me in because I'm employed, or after graduating from college, I stayed here. It's one of those things that it's really what brings people to the city of Alva.
Yes, sir.
Alva's a unique small city. We have an amazing public school system, four-year university, growing hospital, fiber internet availability, and close access to the railroad crossroads that can deliver products anywhere in the world. Without larger employers and our economic growth will become stagnant. How do you plan on drawing more manufacturing and service companies to Alva?
It's one of those things, there's lots of good state and government programs. I've talked to a lot of people who, through those state programs, living in other states, have relocated here because of that. And I think that's really, when you talk about a broader sense of the world, outside the state, that's what we have to rely on, outside of individual partnerships, because there are conferences that I have hosted where you can go to meet people. I've also talked to some people at OML conferences that provide services for online recruitment to attract people with remote jobs and stuff like that you can sign up. So there's lots of services like that. I think something that is also a good thing about Alva is we are a local commerce hub, so a lot smaller surrounding towns within our county and the surrounding jurisdiction move here to improve their lives because of the things that Alva has to provide for them. And I think that is a good opportunity to reach out to those communities and help them establish their business also in here so they can grow. You know what I mean? It's one of those things that the more places you have to buy, the more people buy.
Two primary things that are barriers to recruitment. One is consistent, adequate access to fiber. We've got to have broadband. It's got to be solid because the businesses that are relocating, they're choosing sites that are more broadband prepared, capable than we are. The other thing is water. Our water infrastructure is old. We're presently the estimate of expense to do the work that needs to be done, and I say needs to be done because it's the system it's aged to that point, is over $80 million that needs to be done in order to make sure that we have adequate water supply to not only our residential areas in our community, but also locations like Avard. $20-some million needs to be put into the infrastructure for Avard. We're going to work with, we've been working with the Avard committee to have a plan ready to go. They're looking at grants, we're looking at grants. As far as water is concerned, the state has a plan to get broadband to every door in the state of Oklahoma using some federal dollars. And so I feel like broadband is going to happen. We've got to move rather quickly, though, in my opinion, on a long-term strategy for water infrastructure.
Anybody else? Yes, in the back.
So I have two questions, one for each candidate that will be slightly different. Councilman Dowling, given the tens of millions of dollars just referenced by Mayor Parker in water infrastructure repairs, coupled with the impending DEQ unfunded mandates that are coming down the line, how do you propose that those repairs be accomplished, given your voting record and comments surrounding water rates?
Fair enough. It's one of those things, I think the ARPA infrastructure, I believe there was also federal grant money from the Biden administration that looking forward can help negotiate some of those barriers, and that's certainly, you know, I mean, I've always been told you should never count grant money as money in your pocket. You should always have a plan so that if you don't get it, you can still go through with those projects because you're never guaranteed to get it. So it's one of those things that working with our state legislative so that we can, we'll say, I think he addressed it well in the council meeting, soften the blows that we will receive from the DEQ mandate like that. And then it's relying on long-term infrastructure plan. The issue really being is how do we plan forward when we're already having to raise our utility rates because of the issues that we've discussed in the past in developing that. And as far as the recent council votes, I would like to spend more money on the fixing of those lines to deliver water instead of the mechanisms we use to force people to pay for it.
And Mayor Parker, given that you were the mayor that oversaw, that led the council that was responsible for allowing a city manager to rob Peter to pay Paul, essentially, that I was a part of as well, so I don't deny that responsibility. But how do you reconcile that with the voters that you're capable to manage the finances of the city going forward?
So, number one, the way Alva's ordinances are set up, we are designed to have an elected body with a hired CEO, if you will, the city business manager. The CEO is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the city. The elected officials are not. So when you have a situation like that where we, as a council, hire that position, how do we make sure, because we're in all of our hopes are that we're hiring somebody that is qualified and experienced and understands municipal management. And so we have to put a lot of faith into that person that we hire because all of our backgrounds are completely different. But we still have an obligation to make sure that things are taken care of. And so one of the things, I'll just hammer out a few of the things that we've done. We have engaged a third-party accounting firm, Crawford & Associates. They're Oklahoma City based, or maybe Edmond, but anyway, that area, to do our reporting. The prior manager did all of his own reporting, and so the reports that we were provided as council members were the numbers that he wanted us to see because, and we feel like I feel like that's not a good system because he's evaluated on how those numbers look. And so having a third-party accounting firm that prepares those reports, their job's not on the line. The person working in their office, their job is not on the line when they prepare our financial reports that are going to go to our city council members. And so we will get an honest representation of what our financial activity has been. We have also implemented, one of the other things that was occurring is that we don't have a lot of opportunity to invest because as a municipality we cannot put any of our funds in any kind of risk situation. So certificates of deposit, CDs, that's the extent of what we can do for investing funds. We have the previous manager had unilateral authority to cash those CDs to use for operations, and he did. So that is no longer the case. Our finance committee decides on what we are doing in terms of CDs, and that's a three-person, three-council member committee. And so any of those CD transactions are reported to City Council in the finance report. And I think that tackles the most of it. We've put in a lot of other little checks and balances with staff in terms of making sure that, the other big thing that we did was we moved from an accrual-based accounting system to a modified cash-based accounting system. So when we're looking at our income, it is pretty much in line with the cash that we brought in. It's not bills that haven't been paid yet. It's not expenses that haven't been paid yet. We have a better understanding of our position every day of the week because we have transition from an accrual-based accounting system to modified cash.
Ms. Ida?
Quick question for Kelly. How long have you been in office?
2015 to 2023, 8 years,
Thank you.
next week.
Angelica?
This would be a question for Mr. Dowling. So, kind of goes back to your stance on no rate hikes. We've talked about that there's $80 million of infrastructure. So say we get grant money and we are able to tackle all the infrastructure needs that we have. If we don't have an automatic process for, to combat inflation and other things like that, how do you propose that we maintain this new infrastructure and keep us from going into the situation that we were previously in, where our rates were not covering the cost to deliver water to the city?
What do you mean by automatic?
Well, with the CPI adjustments that happens automatically as part of the rate increase structure that we currently have.
I guess I can answer your question, so I wasn't sure what you meant.
Yeah.
To answer that, I don't think to have an automatic rate increase that was designed how many years ago has that been in effect?
We started that in 2017.
2017. It's a very different world than it was in 2017. And so it's one of those things that even that automatic rate increase could not have foreseen what is happening now. I think at the current budget level, my hope is that there are some places that we can clean up with some efficiencies so that we can maintain what we have with a long-term vision. Not buying everything that we need today, but to have a plan that starts to roll it out so that we can have milestones, dates, and years advance to say this part of the street's fixed, not try to fix it all at once. But it's one of those things where you're right, that's an 80 million budget line item. I don't necessarily even think that could be fixed with rate increases.
I might add, on the rate topic, and Drake, you can correct me if I mistake this, but the DEQ, Department of Environmental Quality, tells us where our rates should be, basically, based on what we experience in the cost of running our particular system, how many service lines we have to different customers, and the capacity for which businesses need our water service. And I think just this last year they told us we were 3% under. We're 3% under where they think we should be as it is. And so I remember in 2017, part of the reason we had to have such a significant increase in rates at that time, and I think we did 10% a year for 4 years, was because the DEQ was not going to give us the money we needed to replace our water towers without making that adjustment in our pricing, our utility pricing. So some of this is all fine and good that we can say we're not going to raise rates, but at the end of the day, the financing we needed to do that water tower, that's a lot of time going by with a water rate increase. It's not as significant compared to the amount of money we got in financing for that project. So some of it's outside of our control. We could have told the DEQ, no, we'll do it without your money, but that's maybe not a wise idea either. So I don't want to pay high water rates either. I mean, I don't like it either. I don't want to pay high sales tax rates. None of us like those things. But I know that, when I get home, I want to be able to use the toilet if that's necessary. And I want all those things that we need. We got to be able to have them still. We got to have all that stuff. And if you compare it to the electric bill, our rates have increased far less. If you compare it to the gas bill, our rates have increased far less.
Any other questions?
I might just make a comment real quick because we were talking about that. Probably about 8-9 years ago, might have been 9 years ago, we actually had it was called a stakeholders meeting, and met for months about strategic planning for the city of Alva. And the utilities, one of the things that we had not done at that point in time in our previous 30-40 years, we had not raised rates for streets or for water or for trash, and that's why we got so far behind. And that's where the $5 fee came on your water and trash bill for streets came from. I just texted my mother, she lives in Enid. Just her and her husband, just to ask about water, what her water and trash was. Hers is more than what mine is, and I have 4 kids and my wife and I. So just to give you an idea, about $30 more a month.
I guess I'll say, it's one of those things that I've determined on going through OML. Every single municipality is different. From the size to the construction of the government, we have, 3 different major forms of government with very many different forms in between that. So it is hard to say, well, this community is compared to this community at any level. There are so many factors that go into it to determine the average income of those people, what drives their economy. It's one of those things that you can never pick and match. What works one for one will work for another. You must do your own research and investigation to determine what works for our area, not just take easy answers that are handed to us.
Okay, we're gonna allow you guys to have a closing statement. We'll let you go first.
I just want to thank everybody for coming out here.
Adam, careful.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out here. It's one of those things that the only way Alva becomes a more enjoyable place to live, becomes a more fulfilling place to live, is because the citizens who live here participate. It's what I think makes us uniquely Alva, is the people who live here. And thank you.
Alva is a great place, and I think that it's a political environment everywhere, from local government to federal government, that people want change. You want to know who wants change? I want change. I want to change some of the ways that we've done things so that we keep making things better. We're not going to be able to do what needs to be done tomorrow by doing things the same way we've done in the last 8 years, 20 years, 40 years, or whatever. And the environment does change rapidly. And so when things change in our environment, when the DEQ tells us that we're going to have to abate all lead and copper lines in our water system, when those things happen, change is required, because that wasn't a condition of what we signed up for when we signed up for these positions. Change is necessary, but if you just simply want to change the faces, be careful, because there's a lot of advantage to having some continuity, to understanding what was going on and why these decisions were made and what needs to be done in the future to make sure that we don't run into bad luck moving ahead. So I thank all of you. This has been a wonderful community to serve as mayor. I am very honored and humbled to have had the opportunity for the last 8 years. And if I get the opportunity again, I will serve you honorably, and I will work my tail off. So, thank you, guys. President Ryerson, your having pointed out after completion of Sergeant at Arms that is being recorded, I think I should note that today's Sergeant at Arms was written and produced by Vern Metcalf.
That was good.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today. Thank both candidates for coming and for all the community who came out and supported this. It was a great lunch, and I appreciate everybody being here. April 4th, no matter what, go out and vote. That's the most important thing. We're adjourned.